I know many of you, especially those of you who are in the United States, whether you are out of status, whether your visa have expired, or whether you've got TPS under the Biden TPS, Biden humanitarian parole. A lot of you are worried because in the next 22 days, today is December 30th, Donald Trump will become the next president. And from 2016 up to this day, Donald Trump have made it very clear that he doesn't like immigrant, especially those who are here illegally. So certainly, a lot of Americans, a lot of people come to this country in search of a better life. And what makes this country great is the fact that you have so many people from so many different parts of the world who comes here, who work hard, who pay taxes, who want to be good citizens, who want to be good people. The majority come here for that. So Donald Trump has, for the last 4 years, really been spewing hate against immigrants, whether it was the Haitian eating dogs and cat or the Mexicans, rapists and criminal. So he's done it all. I don't expect that things will be different. And I want to sort of talk to you a little bit about how you can sort of not putting yourself in position to become a victim of deportation. I'm going to explain to you what usually happens when an ICE agent arrests you for, for being here illegally or out of status. Okay. So first thing I'm going to say, we can't necessarily blame Donald Trump. He ran a campaign. He told the American people what he wants to do. The American people voted for him. So there's the assumption that the American people wants him to enact his plan. And his plan includes deporting as many people as possible and stopping TPS, stopping humanitarian parole, cancel a few programs that benefit certain people. Now, I have to tell you that the president, I mean, Donald Trump is not necessarily against immigrants. Trump companies have benefited from immigration. And he said this the other day that he likes the HB1 visa because he's got a lot of HB1 visa on his properties. People will come from overseas and work for Donald Trump. So he doesn't necessarily hate it. I think Donald Trump would like a certain type of people to come here as opposed to people from Africa, the Caribbean, or South America. And he's not the only person who feels that way. There are a whole Project 2025 who talks about how white people are going to become the minority sort of majority, and that we got all these immigrants coming here and they're going to take over and so on and so forth. But this is all crazy. First, let me say this to you that it's not going to be easy, almost literally impossible for Donald Trump to enact sort of mass deportation. There are a few things Donald Trump can do very quickly. He could do them by executive orders, and some of the things that he could do are pretty straightforward. But there are things also he can't do. And a lot of people are gearing up, getting ready to fight Donald Trump when it comes to immigration. Immigration is really the lifeblood of the United States. Now, if you're here illegally, and let me just, before I start talking about this, let me just say this so people understand. I am not giving anyone legal advice. I don't have a license to practice law, so I'm not giving legal advice. I'm only sharing my experience, my knowledge with you. If you have a legal question about immigration, my advice to you, consult an attorney who is qualified to give you advice, a licensed attorney who actually understands immigration law, who does immigration. Okay, having said that, let me say this to you. Um, if you have a visa, for example, I know a lot of people have, let's say, a 10-year visa. Okay. When you enter the United States, usually you can stay up to 6 months. Your I-94 in your passport will tell you from the date you enter to the date you leave, you cannot pass 6 months. Now, if you overstayed your I-94 date, even though the visa in your passport says 10 years, you're still out of status, you overstayed your visa. Now you can, before that I-94 expired, you can ask to renew it. You can say there's a form you fill out, you send it to the USCIS, and in most instances, they will let you stay for a little longer. So if you haven't done that and you're still in this country, you're here illegally. Now, there are people who came here a very long time with a visa and they decide to stay. And I know a lot of people in my community and other minority community that are here illegally, but they work. Some of them pay taxes. They contribute to the economy. They're part of our community. They have children. They are one of us, so to say. So it could be very destructive, not only to the families, but to the children. For someone who's been here for so long, all of a sudden now ICE agent just pick them up, yank them, and send them to another country. Now, let me explain to you what usually happens. The government doesn't really know, so to speak, where everybody is. When Donald Trump talks about all these illegals here, we're going to get them, we're going to deport them, he doesn't know where they are, which means that for him to be able to do that, he's going to have to do a lot of work. And he basically nominated this guy to be Homeland Security Secretary. And this guy is no friends of immigrant. He made it very clear. He talks about separating children from their mom, from their family. He talks about deporting U.S. citizens who were born by immigrant parents. This is really crazy, and I could see this lawsuit pending. But nevertheless, the purpose of this video is to sort of help you understand how not to be victimized by what we call by getting picked up by ICE agent. Now, there was a time in this country where people would get picked up, whether it's at the bus station, whether it's at the train station, whether it's at work doing an ICE raid, because there are places where ICE agents know that people work, and most of the people there are not are out of status. They would just come there and try to, get as many people as possible. I know people. When I practiced law, I knew the clients that have gotten picked up at the bus station. Somebody, an ICE agent came up to them and asked them, "Hey, who are you? Blah blah blah. Do you have any ID on you?" And so on and so forth. Now, uh, first of all, uh, unless you're actually committing a crime and you're getting arrested, you don't have to talk to anybody. If I come up to you and I said, "Hey, I'm a nice agent. May I see your identification, whether you have a passport or driver's license and so on." You don't have to talk to them. You don't have to talk to anybody. You have that right. Listen, you could say, look, here's my lawyer. If you have any question, call my lawyer, because I don't know who you are. I know you're an ICE agent, but it does have to do with me. So I think that we're going to have to teach people in our community how to be smart about where to be, when to be, and how to be, sort of watch your surrounding and watch what's going on, watch the public where you are. Because a lot of the time, people would look at you or they listen to you talking. They think you have an accent, and they would assume that you are in this country illegally. That happens all the time to a lot of people I know. They think, hey, this guy have an accent, maybe he's not from here, and so on. So try to be careful when you are in a bus station, especially Greyhound bus station is one of the places where you've got a lot of activity, and also in sort of big train stations, whether it's in New York and other places, Pennsylvania, you often have a lot of ICE agent lurking around. Now, I don't know for sure that Donald Trump is going to take an army and send them out there and ask them to go to certain cities and places and try to round up as many immigrants as possible. So be aware of these situations. Be aware where you're going and who's there. Now, the other thing also I think is very useful. If you know you are in this country, you're out of status, because I don't like to say people are here illegally. There's no such thing as being here illegally. You are here, you just don't have the government permission to be here because either your visa expired or you came in without a visa and so on. So let's say that you're out of status. And if you've been here a long time, or for whatever how long you've been here, what I would suggest, which is what I would do if I was in this situation, I will carry a business card of a lawyer or someone that if I get stopped by an ICE agent, if I get stopped by somebody and they want to know what my name is, what I'm doing here, where I live, and all of this thing, I don't have to give them that information. I just tell them, hey, he's my attorney. If you want to know about me, talk to him. But don't give information. And I know sometimes, especially in our community, and a lot of African community also, they see a white guy shows up to them with a badge, all of a sudden they're afraid. There's nothing that the guy can do to you, okay? He can kill you. He can do anything. So don't be afraid if somebody approach you and asks you a question. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm not talking to you. I'm not giving you any information. He's my lawyer. You want to talk to my lawyer. If you're going to arrest me, tell me why I did wrong. That's it. End of the story. You don't have to tell them your name. You don't have to tell them where you live. You don't have to tell them where you're going. You don't have to tell them nothing. You don't have to say nothing to anybody. So understand that how this thing works in this country. The government has the right to investigate. The government has the right to ask questions, but you also have right in terms of what question you can and cannot answer. So always talk to an attorney. Always speak to an attorney about what you can do, what you cannot do. But this is to teach you sort of how to protect yourself because a lot of the time the we get into trouble because of what we tell someone because somehow we think they're there to help you or they're gonna understand your situation. They're not gonna understand your situation. First of all, if a total stranger comes up to you and show a badge and say I'm an ICE agent, he's not trying to help. He's trying to determine whether you're here illegally or not, and he's trying to arrest you and get you deported. So you don't have to help him do his job. So if he wants information, he's not going to get it from you. So that's what I'm saying. So that's first thing I want to tell you, you got to be careful of. The second thing I want to share with you is that there is, in the United States, there are some cities that do not necessarily cooperate with the federal government when it comes to enforcement of immigration law. So we call them, safe cities. Those are cities whose mayors or whose state, whose governor said, hey, we're not going to help you find people in our community who may be living here illegally or who may be living without a passport, I mean, without a visa. We're not going to help you, okay? So those cities, you would hear the term sanctuary cities. That's what they call them, sanctuary cities or sanctuary state like California, a huge part of California, not the entire state, a huge part of it, have a lot of sanctuary cities. Those are cities that are not going to sort of tell the Fed or where you are, whether you have a green card or not, whether you're here legally or not. Washington State, Seattle, where I am, is also a sanctuary state. They don't necessarily cooperate for that. In fact, the state of Washington is doing up, getting ready for a fight when it comes to immigration. So New York at one point used to be a sanctuary city, and I'm not sure anymore if New York is a sanctuary city since the mayor of New York had been indicted. He got into trouble. He's upset with the Democrats, so he may jump ship and become a Republican and therefore not necessarily a sanctuary city. But there are other places around the country where you can get a little more solace when it comes to sort of that type of government activity with regard to you not being here legally. So if I was a person living in the United States without a visa or I'm here illegally, I would try to protect myself by moving to a city or place where I think the chances of me getting arrested or getting deported is less than be in a place, let's say, where they actually looking and the government, the local government is helping the federal government trying to find these people. So that's number two. Okay. Number three, and I would tell you guys, speak to an attorney because here's what usually happens. If you are here, let's say you're in the United States illegally, so the minute that you've submitted an application, I don't care for what, you can speak to an attorney who can explain to you. It could be for asylum. It could be you get married to someone and you're getting your green card. It could be that your job is sponsoring you. It could be that the church where you go is sponsoring you. It could be that, an American citizen of a family member, brothers, sisters, whatever is concerning you. If I was in that situation, I would make sure that if this is my case, I would make sure that my application get to USCIS before January 20th. The reason I'm saying this is there's a Donald Trump has a lot of power. The president of the United States is the chief law enforcement officer for the executive branch. So there's a lot of things he could do by executive orders. I know sometimes you hear people talk about executive orders. For example, Biden basically allowed this program where we have Haitian, Salvadorian, Guatemalan coming to this country via this program that he called the humanitarian parole. He did that through executive order. He didn't have to go to Congress to get a law passed. He just, with a stroke of a pen, he does it. The same way when Donald Trump comes to power, there's a lot of things that he can actually get rid of by the stroke of a pen. That's how powerful, that's how much control that they have when it comes to immigration. Now, certainly, if you get picked up by ICE, they take you to a detention center. By the time you get a lawyer to see you, you may be in prison for a year, 2 years, who knows? Now, if you get to your case before a judge, it could be longer, so on and so forth. So try to be smart, try to be careful, and always make sure that you have a plan. What does I mean by that? What I mean by that is, if I mean, I can, when I'm giving you advice, I want people to understand I'm not giving you legal advice. So I'm just telling you what I would do if I was in that situation. If I was in somebody's situation, let's say I was here, not necessarily legally, or I didn't have a visa, and I've been here, let's say I've been here 10 years, 15 years, I've been here a long time, what I would do is have a plan in case. What does it mean? Mean that a lot of immigrants that are here for a long time, they've been working, they've been paying taxes, they have bank account, some of them have other cars and other property. What I would do is I would create a plan in case something happened, in case I get picked up by an ICE agent and I end up in a crumb somewhere. The word crumb is really where they usually put people that they locked up for violating immigration laws. So they put you in prison. So if you have children, you have a husband, or you have other people, you have to sit down with your family and say, look, listen, guys, this is really what could happen to mommy, what could happen to daddy. What are we going to do if this happened? If I go out for whatever reason, I don't come back home because I get locked up by an ICE agent, what am I supposed to, what are we going to do in terms of a family? Always have a lawyer on call. So good to have a lawyer's card in your wallet, work with a lawyer's card, make sure that the lawyer knows who you are. In case something happened, your family called the lawyer, then the lawyer can take action pretty quickly. You'll be surprised how much a lawyer can help you. So make sure you have that. The other thing is, if you have a bank account, make sure there's somebody else who can get access to your bank account. If you're locked up, you can get access to your bank account, whether it's your family member, your mom, your dad, your friend, or someone whose name is in the account who can actually access some of the resources you may need to defend yourself or to take care of your family. Maybe there's a second person to do that. The other thing that is good also, if you are a member of a church, make sure that your pastors, assuming that this is someone you can talk to, sympathizing to your issue, that they know your situation, they understand, and they're willing to help in case something happens. So I've given you guys 5 things you can do. You don't have to talk to someone at the bus station. You can tell them to talk to you. You don't ever have to give people information about you at all. You can move to a sanctuary city if you are in a city that you feel threatened or you feel that you're not going to get any sort of protection. You have to have a plan for if something happened to you. If you have bank account, you have property, you have to have, so you and your family have to figure all of this out. So what's going to happen after January 20th is based on what Donald Trump have been saying. And I have told my friends, people that I know, that I don't think Donald Trump is joking. I think he's going to try to use the US military and the National Guard to try to go after people that he thinks shouldn't be here for whatever reason. Now, I don't want to get involved into the politics of who should be here, we shouldn't be here. I can tell you what I believe for whatever it's worth. The United States only belongs to the Indians. The white people who are in the United States now, they came here hundreds of years ago. They killed all the Indians. They stole the land. Half of America, from California to New Mexico, used to belong to Mexico. The U.S. stole it from them. So who the land belonged to, I don't know. If you stole something for someone, you can't say it's yours. But that's a political discussion. That's not reality. The reality is this is what we're dealing with in terms of immigration. And I think that we have never, immigrants have been the backbone of this country, and they have never felt so threatened. I myself is an immigrant who came here when I was still a teenager. And I have never, for the last 42 years I've been here, 40, yeah, 41 years I've been here in the United States, I have never seen such attack on immigrants. And I have read a lot of articles, a lot of things about immigrant, and it's been said that deporting immigrants would have a catastrophic effect on the economy of this country. And we all know that because most of us, a lot of us, we are everywhere. We drive taxis, we are caretakers, we work with the old, we work with the young, we are doctors, like we're all over the place. So and not all of us certainly are here illegally. Unfortunately, that's what it is. But deporting people is not the solution. I think that's the wrong solution. I don't think that's the right solution. But this is what the people of the United States voted. So now we have a fight in our hands. So this is part one of how not to get deported. So I'm going to do part two, and part two will talk a little bit more about other things you can do if you actually in that situation, you find yourself inside of a cell waiting to be deported to your country. There are things that you can do. But my biggest advice to you guys is please speak to an immigration attorney, have a lawyers on call, making sure that you're protected, take care of your family, and I will see you next time and how to not get deported, part two with the professor. Thank you.